So, about halfway into the year now. We're in July and August is coming around, and we're gonna get back into, if you have kids, get back into the school year, things like that, vacations. You might just be starting your vacation, or you might just come from your vacation. We just finished ours and went to Florida, Disney World. And I always think at the end of the day, I'm not big on mid-year reviews or beginning of the year reviews, end of the year reviews. I'm not big on them, but for discipline wise, I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. If you're doing something that's new, something that you're not familiar with, I think it definitely is important to do that litmus test and just do a spot check as to how you're doing financially. Again, I'm not big on structure. I don't know why. I'm just one of those rebels, but I just think at the end of the day, if you live below your means, you don't really need to have structured a sense. And I know I'm weird that way. If you look at my desktop, it's all chaos, but I know where everything is. That's important, right? It looks like chaos to the layman, but I know where everything is, essentially. So as long as no one messes with it, I'm good. I look at my finances the same. I make sure that things are well below what they need to be. So many times I see negative $500 or negative $300 on credit cards, and even some of my utilities. Sometimes it's like I'll get the statement. It says minus, no need to pay. And again, to a lot of people that might be waste. You're clearly not managing things properly. But again, I have a sense of relief that overall in this year, from January to now, what I'm doing is working. Is it optimal? Maybe not case, but I like it. I don't mind getting a bill that it says don't pay, or getting some kind of service that says I have a minus or credit. So, with that said, I think for the average person, and I'm not saying I'm above average or anything like that, what I'm saying is having that mid year check in terms of your finance to make sure that you're going in the right direction is always good and key. So some areas or some things will be just, you might get just a statement and might be credit card statement, whatever. That's a good, easy litmus test. You could just check the statement and see where you're at. Have you missed a payment? It's been several months now since the beginning of January, whatever. And have you missed payments? What are you burning in terms of those types of charges, interest charges? So I want to make it clear, I have negative balances, but those negative balances, there's no interest charge on them. It's not if it affects anything. All it just means is I could technically go maybe 2 months without paying this particular bill. And sometimes I actually utilize that. I'll go into the app that automatically pays the utility. That's why it gets into credit usually. And yeah, I'll just stop payments for 3 months, and then I'll resume it for another 3 months to get back on track in a sense. Or what I'll do is I will, kind of readjust, right? It's $2,000 over. So that's a little extreme, or $2,000 in the negative. So that's a little extreme. That means that I'm obviously overpaying this bill. And again, I'm really, really bad at, you know, fine tuning things. So for example, all my utilities, I just do 250, 250, 250. And one thing I realize is water sometimes it's every 3 months. So I'm sending them 250, 250 every month. And clearly it's not the best. But it works for me and it keeps my sanity down. I don't have to necessarily worry about it. What I'm getting at is sometimes it's overkill, right? If I have a negative $1,200 in a utility, then that will trigger me to, okay, I'm clearly overpaying. Let's take a look at the previous water bills statements or whatever utility statements and get an idea of what I should be actually paying. So I'll do that. One thing I just wanted to also add, I'm big on online. So I mean, you should know that by now. But I'm big on online and access to the online services. So paperless billing, I love it. I think it's great. and I like to register for a lot of my services that I pay out in an operating perspective. As you guys know, I'm huge on your operating budget. So I have access to the gas utility. I can log in and go to my gas and see what my usage is. Water, I can go to my water or whatever and see what my usages are. And I really like that. So ironically, I don't need to wait for a statement to come per se. That's usually when I notice if it's minus, because I look at the statement, I'll realize I don't look at the statements every day, but I can go online, validate it, and then look at the past statements online and see what is the average price. Now, with utilities where it's consumption, you're not going to be able to gauge it, but you can see an average. You can see, okay, over the course of 6 months, in the hotter months, this is what I'm paying, and then in the colder months, what I'm paying. And then you could choose to whether in automatic payments on bank or your banking system, you can have it for the first half of the month, you pay this much, you're averaging it out, and then the second half, if you live in a colder climate, maybe it'll be this much. So you could do that. Do I do that? I don't. I just will just average it out in general and just pay it throughout the whole year. And that's why I usually have an overage or negative balance or a credit balance. So that's something that you could definitely do. Middle of the year, that's something that you can easily do. Again, we're in the middle of the year, so you should be able to see what your usages are for your utilities and things like that. Now, if you don't own a home, obviously all this is superfluous to you. But at the end of the day, if you have credit cards, if you have fee services like Netflix and on-demand services, music services, you can use that or do that mid-year kind of clean house check to see, are you using these services? One thing for me, for years I had Spotify and I love Spotify, but I realized that I ended up getting Apple One Pay, and with the Apple One Pay, you get like Apple Games for my kids, and then you get access to Apple TV, like not the device, but the actual subscription. So the Apple One was like a bundle, and part of that bundle I got Apple Music. So in a sense, I had two music streaming apps, and when I only used one. And so what I did, and again, this is something that I do. It's a little extreme. You don't have to necessarily do it, but I just cut off my credit card. You can go to the bank and you could be like, hey, I need a new credit card. I think this credit card was compromised. What they'll do is they will stop that credit card and then they'll issue you a new one. But what happens is what I like about that is all of a sudden I'll get messages from all these obscure services that I probably signed up legitimately myself, but I just totally forgot about it. Like sometimes with this digital age, you just sign up for something, and then what they do is they'll just bill you and bill you and bill you. And sometimes you don't even realize you're not even using it. There's some things that I saw messages, and it was like, the service is going to be disconnected if you don't put a new credit card. I'm like, I don't even use this service, so good, let it expire. I'm good. So that's the one thing that I like. Another one, it's not another one, but a situation. I signed up for something, and then when I try to cancel it, the cancel button had an error in the code. So every time I try to cancel the service, so let me sign up for the service, but then when I try to cancel the service, it was giving me an error, and so I couldn't even cancel the service if I wanted to. So again, that's why I like doing this, because that service, you didn't let me cancel it. Hey, now that I remove my credit card, or it, when you can't remove your credit card because you have to put in a new credit card for them to allow you to remove the existing credit card. So anyways, I ended up just canceling my credit card, and then that service messaged me in an automated fashion. This service, the credit card didn't work. So I like doing that. So again, not necessarily needs to be part of your mid-year review of your finances to cancel credit cards, but I'm just saying that's something that I do. Again, I don't do it often. I do it maybe once every 3 or 4 years. So I don't know if the credit card company will be cool if every 6 months you're canceling your credit card. So or getting issuing a new credit card number. So I don't know if that will fly well with them, but that's something that I do. So those are some of the things that I do to do my check-ins. So regarding back to what I was saying, There's just a lot of services like the music app. I had both of them and I didn't need one or I only used one. So when I canceled the credit card, it got me thinking. I was like, I like Spotify, but you know what? At the end of the day, like it's all about, at least I think in 2024, it's all about just keeping things lean. And I don't really need two music apps. Yes, all my playlists are in Spotify, but it's not so important that I'm gonna give up the Apple Music because once again, the Apple Music was bundled. And that's what's smart about what Apple's doing. They bundle the music with the streaming, with the games. Very smart because I'm like, this bundle for 20 something dollars, bit more, but I'm getting so much more with it versus Spotify. I'm just getting music and it's going up in price. I think it's $14, $15 now. So for $5 more, I get so much more. So I never renewed my Spotify. And again, all because I had canceled the credit card. I don't think I would have physically gone into Spotify and actually physically canceled it because again, mentally, I was like, I do like this. I like my playlist. I like everything. So I did a little bit of a cold turkey thing. I just cut off the credit card. And then when the services started saying, hey, we can't charge you anymore, I was like, you know what? Maybe that's for the better, right? And it's interesting that I don't know why that's how our brains are. So think about what I'm saying here. When it's disconnected, when it's taken from me, I don't necessarily want it back, but I don't have the strength to resist it myself. You know what I mean? I don't have the strength to go ahead and just remove this thing from my life. I need it to be stripped of me and then I will accept it. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to get at, but it's definitely a mindset thing. It's interesting how our brains work. I don't know if anyone else thinks this way or has that type of revelation because it is frustrating. Why couldn't I just go in myself and just cancel it? You know what I mean? Why did I have to go through the credit card and then cancel the credit card and then wait for the credit or wait for Spotify to notify me that they can no longer bill me anymore? And then now I'm not choosing not to renew. So it's quite interesting. I'm not quite sure how mentally or why we do these things the way that we do them. And regarding the mindset, which is a good segue into what I'm talking about right now, the mindset and the motivation, that's the thing that concerns me because I always talk about financial aptitude and things like that, but I'm fallible and I still have my weaknesses. So for example, I was not willing to cancel my subscription on my own, but I was willing to cut off the credit card and let and watch things fall away off of the services that are attached to my credit card. But I think at the end of the day, and I always say this, it's about you understanding your strengths and your weaknesses. Again, my strength is being able to just cut things off at the head, like drugs. If you're addicted to drugs, I would just delete my supplier's number off my phone because now I can't get the drugs anymore because I deleted the number. Versus some people have a better discipline where they can have the number, but they know to never call the number again and they know that this is a bad thing and they can just stop in that way. What I'm trying to say is just like anything in life, your financial aptitude, you need to really understand who you are as a person and not lie to yourself, be honest with yourself, because that's the best way to help guide yourself and hack your mind into being a bit more financially free than you were several months ago. And I always say when it comes to finances, when it comes to anything, it's typically an incremental, small incremental growth. That is the best way. They say, what is it? It's not a race. It's not a race. It's a marathon. I'm muddling up the tortoise versus the rabbit, right? The idea is that the rabbit's going way faster, and the rabbit has all the confidence that it's going to win because it's so much faster. But the tortoise is slow and steady, right? He doesn't burn himself out. He doesn't slow down. He just keeps at the pace that he's comfortable with. And by doing that, He optimizes his heart rate, he optimizes his mind, he optimizes everything about him. Now, at the end of the day, is he as fast as the rabbit? No. But the point is, it's slow and steady versus the rabbit. He's doing amazing things. He's running laps around him. He's playing with the tortoise. But then he burns himself out because he's moving at such a high octane, high speed. And then sometimes you don't realize that you're putting a toll on your body because you're exerting so much energy. And so at the end of the day, sometimes when it comes to these things, it's not really the rabbit that wins the race, it's the tortoise. It's the slow and steady that ultimately wins the race. I don't know what my current net worth is. I think maybe 2 million at this point. But again, if be 1.8, I don't remember. But my point is, if I thought about this and was rushing to get to 2 million in equity or net worth and stuff like that, I probably wouldn't have gotten here. I think it was just, I just slowly realized I bought this and then I did this and then I did this. And then slowly but surely, yeah, there are pitfalls. There's backslides. It's up and down. There's ebbs and flows. But in the long run, it's been this linear. If you take out the ebbs and flows, it's been a linear progression. And I thank God for that, of course. But my point is, if I focus and I was always at a high octane and I only was able to operate at this peak level, and then every time I didn't hit a peak level, I would dissipate, I think that linear would not be, that linear uptrend growth would not be that. It would be overall a dip, slide, and things like that. Not to say that's bad, but the point of the matter is that for me, I need to, and I want to have that linear uptrend. I'm fine with a couple of ebbs and flows, but I want that. Then again, it's all about finding what you're tolerant of. Like I said, the tortoise, he's good. He or she found their rhythm. And so that's how they're going to run this race. So I think finances are the same thing. Also, visualizing your goals. Again, like I said, I'm not really big on very fine-tuned plans and things like that, but having high-level goals to keep you focused is important. So if it's something where you want to go on vacation at the end of every year, then yeah, do that. But with respect to finances, try to find a way that forces you to be better than you were last year. So let's say, for example, last year you just used a credit card, right? This year you paid off that credit card from last year's vacation. So you want to do something different, more optimal maybe this year, because that's putting something on credit that's not ideal, and then it affects your your operating income, because now you have this credit card debt that's coming out every month to support that trip you did last year. So maybe what you could do is, if you're more now focusing on investments, you could say to yourself, okay, my goal is to now only use investment income to support the vacation. So last year, you were using credit to support the vacation. Now you're using interest to support your vacation. So just stuff like that. Just trying to grow your mindset and build on your learning of how money works and things like that. And then also celebrating those small wins. So for example, if last year you didn't have an investment account, now you do, you got to celebrate those. You got to recognize those and you got to be proud of yourself. I had one of our students that used to live with us. She sent us her first dividend and it was great. Like, she was so excited. It wasn't a lot of money, but the point is, hey, you put in the money, you set it and you forget it, and then now you're getting money and then you're reinvesting that money into that company. What's so bad about that? So she's very happy and I'm very proud of her and her family for doing that. And she's only 20 years old. So I hope they keep it up, because if she just keeps doing it at her age, that's amazing. Time is the only thing that's really important in life. Time and relationships, because those are the real things that don't have value. They have value, but they're invaluable. You can never get back that time with your family. Your age, you can never get back. I can never go back to my 20s. But if I lose money, I could always rebuild that money to a certain degree. You got to always celebrate the wins and celebrate them with your family and friends, of course. But you got to give yourself perspective to keep yourself motivated. And then do a litmus check. Are you on track? Do you see a trend going in this way, or kind of trend flatlining or going down? These are indicators to show you that you're doing something wrong. So if your credit score is gone down severely, then there's something that you're doing wrong. The credit score can go down within a couple of months. Why? Because you might be doing some different things. Interestingly enough, I think sometimes when creditors see you doing different things, it makes them antsy, jumpy, so they might not take kindly to it. I'm not saying that they control your credit, but the point is, if you're applying for several credit cards for a specific purpose, those will take a hit. If you're deciding to leave a job and become a consultant, and then now you update your credit report that you left this company and now you're consultant, you might take a little bit of a hit, right? At the end of the day, once again, there's nothing wrong with taking a hit if you know that it's a calculated hit and you know what you're trying to do. And so that goes back to having that goal. Again, if you're into plans and you're highly detailed and you can do all the power to you and plan all this the way that you want to plan it. For me, I just do a high level thing just to keep my light at the end of the tunnel so I have a focus and a direction to keep forward when I'm in the dark. That's what I do. But again, if you need to make sure that all the lights are on and every 3 feet there's a source of light showing you the way, hey, that's a plan. That's all good. The name of the game is for you to be mentally stable and disciplined and recognize that you're going in a proper trend direction. And if you're not, you want to right that ship as soon as possible. And then, like I said, I truly believe in living below your means. So that's another thing you want to check. You want to see, okay, at the end of the month, am I always in the black? Do I have enough savings even after I've put money into Wealthsimple and maybe an emergency fund if that's what you want to do? Do I have extra money? That's the ideal thing. That's the sweet spot. Being able to pay off everything and then have all your major accounts furnished at the end of the month, but then now you also have a little bit of playing money in addition to the allowance that you've given yourself. That's the best world. Because now when things come up, emergencies, things like that, you don't even need to touch your emergency fund if you do have one because you got a little extra always. And okay, for example, our one of our toilets was overflowing underneath the toilet, so that means that there's something wrong with the wax in the gasket or whatever underneath the toilet. So I installed the toilet years ago during COVID, but I'm too busy now. COVID's over and I'm back to my grind. So I just called someone and it cost $630. He was here for maybe 20 minutes. So do I like that? No, I don't. Am I thankful that I have the resources to just do it and just pay it? Yes, I am. But the point of the matter is that I'm glad that I don't have to dip into emergency funds just to pay the 600 to this person. I just had the available resources and I just paid it. So there's nothing greater than just being able to do that. Again, emergency funds is for this, but I'd rather the emergency funds be for something like major, like if there's a catastrophic event, things like that. We got to move to a hotel or something like that. That's what I would prefer the emergency fund for. If you have one, again, like I said, I live below my means, so I could do that either regardless. But my point is, if you do have an emergency fund, that's how I would look at an emergency fund to be used for. And again, the last thing I'll just say is you want to make sure that you're building in your tax, because that's one thing that I still always forget, being honest with you. I forgot to do the whole tax side of things. My logic, though, is worst case, I do have enough resources where if I have to pay taxes, I'll just take it out, the investments. That's just my logic. So I will put the money into investments, so allow it to grow slowly and a little bit. But then when I have to pay my taxes, I'll just be like, okay, now I got to take out $10,000 out of my investment to pay the taxes. Again, the name of the game is, I look at it like this. I could either have money sitting in my bank account and doing nothing for me, or I can just ship all my money as much as possible into investments. And then at least these investments are growing. Yes, there's a risk because the investment could go down and things like that. But at the end of the day, overall, my money is going down fundamentally in a regular A lender bank because they give you crap percentages. Yes, it's not the same thing because at least you're not your money's going down, but the actual money, the physical aspect of it is still there. So you could use that to pay something, but economically your money is depreciating in banks, but economically your money is appreciating in investments. But then the risk is it could depreciate just the same. And so now my 10,000 could literally next day become 8,000 because that investment has gone bad or it's on its downtrend. That's the risk versus the banks, my 10,000 would still be 10,000, but economically, if I keep it in there for long periods of time, inflation is 2 to 3% per year. So now next year my money would still be 8,000, but the trick is I would still have $10,000 in the bank. It would still look like 10,000 even though economically it's only 8,000. So it's all the way that you look at it. And the last thing I'll say is just self-reflection. Look at yourself. Are you becoming a better person with you being a bit more financially free? If assuming you're on a proper trend up in terms of what you're doing, in terms of your savings and things like that, are your relationship with your kids getting better? That's, I think, another true litmus test. I think at the end of the day, the whole point of having financial freedom is to make you more free to focus on things that are really important, which are your family, your friends, and things like that, your relationships. So always never take for granted what you have around you. And always remember that the people around you, even though they're not necessarily contributing to you earning money, just the fact that they're around and they support you, you have to recognize that because that's important. Because a lot of times people take it for granted. I don't have to worry about this, I have to worry about that. My kids are doing amazing. And because these things are happening in your life and they're going well, that's one stress you don't have to worry about. So now you can focus on this new venture or whatever. Because you don't have to worry about where's my daughter? Is she going to be okay? They're good. So you got to always recognize the people around you and know that they always play a part. And if there are people that are not playing a part and causing you stress, I do argue you might need to, for a season, separate yourself, distance yourself from those individuals. I think that's one of the hardest things that people don't realize. It's your company, who you hang around. Rapper Master P said this, I don't know if he quoted it or coined it, but he said it and I heard it and it resonated with me. And he said, show me five of your friends and I'll show you your future. And I think what he meant by that is birds of a feather, we tend to flock around the things that we are and what we're familiar with. So if you're around a bunch of guys that are deadbeats, just chilling, watching sports all day, not necessarily growing their lives or their mental abilities, then that's who you're going to be. Now, that doesn't work for everybody, I'm just saying. In general, I'm just generalizing it, but I think it's a saying that holds a bit of weight because you are what you eat, and we are habitual human beings. So if you're around a bunch of people that are making trillions of dollars a day, for you to be in debt by $1 trillion doesn't make a lot of sense because number one, you may feel inadequate about them. And number two, typically when you're around individuals like that, you're going to organically pick up on some cues of how they are and you may mimic those things. So it's always important that you recognize your surroundings and understand if you have a family that is helping you and you're in that uptrend, you got to give them the respect and you got to give them the kudos and you don't have to necessarily say thank you for making me money this year because or this month, but recognize them and cherish them and don't take them for granted. And then if you have people that are against you, that are causing you and draining you and bringing you down mentally, physically, and financially, you got to figure out a way to mitigate that. It's important, and I'll stop it here. And again, look forward to your feedback. I hope this was interesting. See you in the next podcast, and God bless.